Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's Way Forward Workshop Leader Lunch Break, where we are thrilled to welcome Councilwoman Jasmin Santana to the conversation. When she was elected to Cleveland City Council in November 2017, Ward 14 Councilwoman Jasmin Santana became the first Latina council member in the city's history. Her district is 48% Latino and includes Clark Fulton, Stockyards, and portions of Brooklyn Center and Tremont. Her roots in this neighborhood run deep. She was born at Metro Health Medical Center, graduated from Max Hayes High School, and most of her life's work has been centered in what is now her ward. First, as an outreach coordinator with the Hispanic Alliance, where she promoted health and nutrition education there, as well as for Metro Health in the Hispanic community. She has exercised her community leadership in initiatives on public safety, lead abatement, and most certainly women's empowerment. She liked the work, but she grew frustrated by what she saw as a lack of progress in the ward. Nearby neighborhoods seemed to receive lots of attention and investment, while her own still seems stuck. Her place on City Council offered the platform she needed to drive positive change while conscientiously preserving the important elements of the neighborhood. The change she's spearheaded: affordable housing, restoring old commercial spaces to new uses, and certainly during the pandemic, she was seen going door to door to distribute food and supplies to seniors. She holds the position of majority whip on City Council, and all of that isn't enough. She has served as a trustee for a number of nonprofit agencies, including the Northeast Ohio Association for Hispanic Health and the May Dugan Community Center. Her calling is to instill hope in Ward 14 residents, but her greatest joy comes from the two teenagers who call her mom. Councilwoman Santana, I turn it over to you.
Thank you, Marianne, and thank you, Rachel. It really is an honor to be here and be invited to be part of the Cleveland Leadership Lunch and Learn. So I've been part of it with other speakers, so it really is an honor for me to be here today. So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I know that everyone has a pretty busy schedule, but I do thank you for taking time to be here and just learning more about me and my leadership here at the City of Cleveland. So today, as you can see, the first PowerPoint slide, this is the agenda. And so, Marianne, you really covered my intro. That's a wonderful bio. I didn't know it was that good. But anyhow, so yeah, Councilwoman Jasmin Santana. I serve Ward 14, which is on the near west side of Cleveland. I serve about 23 to 24,000 constituents. I grew up here. I've been here since the age of 14. I wasn't born here. I was actually born on Detroit Shoreway before it had a name. It was just Bridge and 54th at that time, and it was a very similar ward to what I represent now, Ward 14. Very high density of Latinos, a lot of blight, crime, a low percentage of owner occupancy in that area. So when investments started coming in, definitely my mom did not have the resources to purchase her home, which I wish she would have, because it's now valued about at $300,000. At that time, it was about $20,000. And so she couldn't afford it at that time. So we migrated and we moved into the Stockyard area in Ward 14. And I've been here since the age of 14. So Ward 14, the age of 14. So grew up, had my two wonderful kids, and just being, raised by a single mom, I experienced a lot of challenges. I mean, she didn't speak the language. So, I grew up as her interpreter, right? And just all the challenges in our area really just inspired me to grow up and do more and wanting to give back. So one of the areas that I'm very passionate about is single moms, especially those that don't speak the language and have a lot of struggles. So started working at Metro Health, which I was born at Metro Health, and really started seeing that after decades, I'm all grown up, and 2 decades after, I realized that our Latinos were facing the same challenges that my mom faced: language, access to care, domestic violence, access to childcare, transportation. And so it was for me just an awakening of like, here goes 20 years after, and your people are still facing these challenges. So what are you going to do about it? And so it was when I went to Washington. I actually was invited to Washington. At that time, there was a time where they were purging all voter registration. I don't know if you remember this, Marianne. It was a big deal. They were purging all these registrations, and Latinos were going to be impacted. So I went to Washington. So I must add that I never, ever, ever thought that I would be in this position. I mean, I grew up Pentecostal, and you didn't mix politics and politics, right? Like, church, or I would say religion and politics. Sorry about that. And so I just never aspired to that, to be that. But I did aspire to give back to my community and be a change and really help my people. So I went to Washington, and I remember Congresswoman Marcia Fudge, and she had an amazing speech, but she ended her speech with, you want to make a difference in your neighborhood. You want to be part of the change. You have to change the systems, right? And that is having a seat at the table. And I remember when she ended with that, that really touched me. And it was just like this aha moment where I was like, that's what I have to do. I have to run. And so I decided to run. And here I am 6 years after, and serving the community that I grew up in, 48% Hispanics in this area. And just dealing with the challenges that I've shared with you, the transportation and the health, and um, the owner occupancy piece. And so can you put it to the next slide, Rachel? Because I want to go through our challenges and just our opportunities in our ward, so people could get a sense of what's going on here in the ward. So, and I also give tours. If anyone's interested in getting a tour of the neighborhood, please reach out to me. I love giving tours. I think being able to see and visually see it, it really impacts people. And so I'm always surprised that people that live in Cleveland, grew up in Cleveland, have never driven by Ward 14. But anyhow, so voter turnout. Voter turnout is very low in Ward 14. We've done surveys, we've knocked on doors. We still don't understand really the challenges, overall challenges. I mean, there are some studies that say it could be language, right? People don't understand what what council person does. The disconnect between government and our community. So this is something that we are working on. We're at 11% voter turnout. And so it's just all about organizing and engaging our residents. So that is something that we are focusing on. We have an important election coming in November. So we are definitely going to be out there knocking on doors and asking those questions and encouraging people to get out to vote. The way that I share it with my residents is, if we increase our voter turnout, then I have more influence at City Hall to negotiate with my colleagues and the mayor on resources that will really improve the quality of life for our residents. The second thing is address women's health and healthier neighborhoods. As I mentioned, I'm very passionate about single moms, but it happens to be that we have a high percentage of single family households here in this area. And these are single moms that are barely making ends meet. They have a lot of, mental health issues, a lot of challenges that they're facing in their household, and raising 2, 3 kids. So what we do is on a monthly basis, we partner with Metro Health, and we host some women's health series, just educating women. I mean, the importance of getting your mind, body, and health aligned and healthy, and opportunities. I think people want to do good. They just don't know where to start, or they don't know where these opportunities exist. So we're here to link these families to these opportunities that, as a council person, I am aware of. So this has happened. I actually started a program called Seeds about 2018, and it stands for Support, Educate, Empower, Develop, and Sustain. And this is a 9-month curriculum to help women. It was what we thought about it is just to help women's economic status. And so by the end of this 9 month, we were linking women to college, higher education. We were linking them to jobs where they get paid a little bit more, or just teaching them how to be on boards, teaching them how to be more engaged and organized in the neighborhood. And I would say that after that 9 month, I saw women buying their own home. I saw women now that are very active in the neighborhood. They're doing community gardens and they're attending more of my meetings and just having more involvement in everything and all the programming that we're doing in the city of Cleveland. So it really is refreshing to see that you've given access to this woman. You've educated her, you empowered her, and you've helped her where now she's giving back to her neighborhood. So this has been a very successful program. We stopped doing it for the past couple of years just because of COVID and people didn't want to meet in person. But this is a program that we will continue through the Ward 14 initiative. I've mentioned housing. I've mentioned housing several times. I think this is probably the one most important thing that we are focusing on. We have only about 30% owner occupancy in the neighborhood, right? And so this makes a neighborhood very vulnerable, especially when they're less than 3 miles from downtown. So what does that mean? When the riverfront, when they're lakefront, when we start developing downtown, what happens is all these developers start moving to the next neighborhood that's closest to downtown. So what's happening is that we're seeing a lot of developers buying homes in our area because they're still very affordable in comparison to adjacent wards. And so families have to move out, just kind of what I went through in the Detroit Shoreway area. And so now families are coming to our office looking for a home to buy or looking for a home to rent. And right now, at this point, we don't have enough housing in our neighborhood that is at affordable price point to help these families stay in the neighborhood where they grew up in. So and you can see the stats here. 5 in 10 houses are unaffordable to them. 60% of these houses are rented houses, not even owned. So this is happening, and it's very difficult because it's pretty challenging with me because I'm trying to preserve the Latino community in this area. I mean, we've migrated from Detroit Shoreway, and so this is affordable. So where do they go next, right? We know that other neighborhoods are not as affordable as Ward 14. So we do have some products that are in the pipeline, and it comes back to like new construction homes at affordable rate. We have 3 projects that are, one of them already was built, was Via Sana. And this was a partnership with Metro Health. We received the Fax 50 grant, which is just a tax credit for to build housing in the neighborhood. And we're getting about over 120 apartments in the area. We have one building that was built out that is 100% occupied, and we have 2 in the pipeline that are coming. But what's challenging is because of the Fair Housing Act, it's hard for us to prioritize our residents or Latino families in the area. So what I try to do is really be intentional in helping families apply for these apartments so that they have first dibs on moving into these apartment buildings. So that's what we're working on now. Yes, we know that families want to own their own home, especially if they have 3, 4 kids. But for now, I just want to ensure that they have a place here and that they're able to stay here. And they don't have to move their kids from school to school, transportation, and just have like this culture shock that they do have when they have to move elsewhere into other neighborhoods. And so illegal dumping also is another thing. I have 55 alleys in our area and in my neighborhood. We are very close to the transfer station where people go and dump their garbage. And so what happens, oftentimes happens, is they get turned away. They come to one of our wards because they know that they know that there's so many alleys. They know that there's so much renters here or slumlords in the area. People are not as they're not paying attention to when they move into they drive into these alleys. So what they end up doing is dumping in the neighborhood. And so this is something that we've been tackling since 2018. We put free dumpsters throughout the neighborhood. We do a lot of cleanup events and just encourage residents to participate. We want them to know that we do care, we do see it, we know it's a problem. But at the same time, be part of the change so that you could develop some pride in your neighborhood. So I want to say we've improved. It's really hard to measure that, but we are sending out city trucks less throughout the years to pick up this illegal dumping. So I will say that we are improving, but there's still a lot of work to do to tackle illegal dumping. So next slide. And those are Ward 14 goals right there. Okay. We know this for the city-wide goal. As Mary Ann mentioned, I am part of the leadership team. I serve on workforce development. I'm actually the chair of workforce education, youth development and training. It's a long title. It's a new committee that happened under President Griffin's leadership. But oh, I have 1 minute. Okay. But just really quick, going through this is, improve safety. We know that crime is increasing all across our city, but more so in Ward 14, we rarely saw homicides. Now these numbers are increasing. Workforce, we know that families are working, but they're just not making enough money to pay their bills and pay their rent. So this is something that we're trying to improve and get residents trained and have an apprenticeship opportunity so that they could increase their hourly wage and be able to support their families. And so another thing that I've taken on as the only Latina in city council is to improve language line. Every organization that we go to or that I refer to, there's always a lack of bilingual staff member, workers, and even language access line. So this is something that I've been championing with all of our organizations to ensuring that Latino population is growing. We're here to stay. We're the fastest actually growing population, and so they need to have access to language in Spanish and English and other languages. I mean, we're getting an influx of immigrants, and that's something that is just new that's been added to my plate. We're getting immigrants from Peru, Venezuela, Mexico, Santo Domingo. And because I speak the language, they're coming to my office and looking for services. And they want to work. People often think their assumption as immigrants come here, they're taking all of our resources. No, they really want to give back and they want to work. And they just want to be included, and I'm trying to create that space for them. So that is it.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for such a great overview of the work that you're doing both in your ward and across the community. And we have had a series of questions come in. So let's start with, what organizations and entities, local, regional, even national, do you consider to be key partners in helping you meet your goals and visions for the community in your ward?
Yes, thank you for that question. Great question. So, Cleveland Foundation has been very instrumental in helping us, at least around housing. And so just been meeting with even this platform, right, Rachel, just being part of Leadership Cleveland, being able to meet with my colleagues there and giving them a tour of the ward has been very helpful, because people hear of Ward 14 and they could hear the challenges, but when you visually see it, right, it just adds this whole other layer of like, here, I want to help you and I want to help your neighborhood. So, but I would say Cleveland Leadership, Metro Health is doing great work here and in our ward. And of course, they're the anchor institution, but they don't have to, but they do. And they're at the table. City of Cleveland, I would say that my colleagues are very supportive of the work that we're doing in here. And, but I would say that is probably about 50% of my job is meeting with partners and giving them presentation and seeing how they could help us with these goals that we've set.
Are there any partnerships that you are seeking that you need in order to help you achieve the goals you outlined?
Yes. So I'm looking more partnership from the county. I'm looking more partnership with the state, right? So I heard, go to Washington and start building those relationships, to bring funding into the area. So that's where I'm at now. It is a little difficult to actually do that, because when you serve a neighborhood that's very vulnerable and it has so much needs, right? Like, you end up staying in that area, and it's very hard for you to add more meetings or more tours or more conversations to your agenda. But I also recognize that is significant, and it's important to bring in resources to the neighborhood.
Can you speak to the intentionality that went into the master planning process for the Clark Fulton areas and how it aims to protect residents against gentrification?
Yes, thank you, Rachel. And I did forget about the master plan. Have to add that. But anyhow, So when I first was elected, right, it's like as a resident, I knew what were the challenges. I knew what we had to do. But one of the things that I ran on is ensuring that I was going to engage the residents, right? And so at that time, Metro Health had gotten a new CEO. Metro West, which is our local CDC, had gotten a new executive director. I was fairly new, and we all needed a neighborhood plan. So what we decided to do is embark on this master plan. And Cleveland Foundation, once again, when you ask who were key partners, they helped fund with Metro Health, and they put resources together, and we started engaging and getting input from residents. Oftentimes we make decisions for our residents, and not really understanding what is it that they need. And so I thought it was very important that I created a plan, a GPS, that was based on the residents' feedback. And so we did that for 2 years. Of course, COVID happened, but we had a lot of Zoom meetings, and we got a lot of input. And that has been my guide, Rachel. That has been my guide. It's been adapted to the city of Cleveland, meaning that any developer, anything that's taking place in the city of Cleveland has to abide by this master plan.
So you mentioned low voter turnout. How can we get more individuals from underrepresented communities to really exercise the right to vote, especially in our current political climate?
Yes. Well, access is always difficult here, right? And also, families, because I've asked this question, like, why aren't you going out to vote? We're knocking on doors. I'm doing meetings. I'm accessible, right? Like, I'm doing all these things. Why aren't you still going out to vote? But the reality of it, it's they're they're working all day. They have so many challenges they're facing in their home, right? They're worried, having to take kids to school, pick them up, transportation, get out of work late. And right now they don't think about voting being powerful or something that's going to change their life. Right now, they're just surviving, right? And so we have to do a better job on educating of what happens when you get out to vote, and how could that change your trajectory in your household if you go out to vote and elect people that really represent what you need in your neighborhood or in your life.
So you mentioned funding and some of the different sources. Can you talk to us about how difficult is it to seek funding for the initiatives you're looking to launch?
That is very difficult. I think in city of Cleveland, right, and we're still a very poor city, and so we have wards that are competing for resources. It is very difficult for you to get more funding than other areas. We know the east side. I just read an article of all these neighborhoods in the east side that are very poor and need significant investment, right? How do you compete with that? So it is difficult, but you do find those organizations that understand the importance of investing in a high density Latino area to preserve the neighborhood, and something that's so close to downtown. But it is very difficult. And that's probably one of the hardest challenges, is to get resources and funding to help in our neighborhood.
As you think back over the past year, what are some of the successes you've seen in your ward that you are most proud of?
Oh, wow. Okay. So, engagement, I would say, has improved significantly, right? Like, my office here is in the ward. So we do get a lot of walk-ins. I get a chance to talk to people, really educate them about what I do, what my role is. We don't have rec centers in my neighborhood, right? So we don't have a place for youth to gather. So we've renovated a park, and we're getting 2 parks by next year that are going to be renovated with swings and a walking path and gazebos, and this is stuff that residents have asked through the master plan. So that's coming. That's in the pipeline. We're going to receive over 120 apartment buildings here, right? I mean, this is the most. I talked to my colleagues, they're like, this is the most apartments that are coming to a neighborhood in less than 6 years since I've been elected. And so that's coming. We have new construction in the pipeline. And now, mind you, I just want to repeat this. This is just in a matter of 6 years that we've been able to get all this investment to the neighborhood.
So you mentioned taking folks on tours. And if you were to lead a tour, what are some of those key places within the neighborhood that you would want individuals to see? And what are some of those hidden gems that they may not know about?
Yes. So hidden gems, I would say, like, you know, Centro Villa's coming to the area, and they already started doing the construction. I don't know if people are aware of Centro Villa, but that's, it's a business incubator. It's a place for Latinos to gather, to shop, and also to build wealth, right? Like my mom used to sell food out of her home, but if she had a space for her to sell food, we probably wouldn't have grown up so poor, right? And so this place is something that I take people by so that they could see the before and after. But we have historic churches like Jones Home area. There's a lot of historic homes. There's a lot of historic churches that I take people by. I take them by Julia de Burgos. It's also a church that now it's becoming a arts hub in the neighborhood. So there's so many, right? But I show them Clark Fulton neighborhood, and I show them the historic piece of it, and just everything that's in the pipeline, and so they could envision like the future of how Ward 14 is going to be. But then there's Stockyard area, right? And that area is where I have the highest crime. I have the highest renter, the highest blight in the neighborhood. So I like to show them both pieces. Like, yes, we're tackling here the things that happen in Clark Fulton. It's moving forward, and I am so appreciative of that. But we still have Stockyard, where residents are suffering, really. And they're still not making ends meet, and they're about a 22,000 medium income in that area.
So serving the community can be a very demanding, almost nonstop role. What do you do to recharge and kind of focus on yourself?
Yes, good question. Oh my God. And like these past couple months, it's just been going, 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 going. I spend time with my kids. My kids are in John Carroll, and the way that I recharge is, maybe a weekend I will go visit them around that area, which is beautiful, and just spend some time with them. I realize how important that is, especially after COVID, to take time for yourself. And if I'm not good, then my staff is not good, and I'm not able to give to my residents. So I try to practice what I preach, and I'm also exercising. I try to at least put in an hour, even if it's on the treadmill, but I make sure that I make it to my appointments, right? And so, but that is as much as I do right now. But I do realize that it's very important for us in leadership to take care of ourselves so that we could continue taking care of others.
And how can those of us on the call today support you and your ward in the goals that you're trying to achieve?
Yes. So, I laid out the goals. And once again, I have them written in my little chalkboard back there. I'm reminded every day of the goals that I need to achieve. And if anyone's interested in any of those areas around housing and youth development and women's health, reach out to me. I would love to give you a tour. But I think what's also helpful is they're on this call, they get to know me, they get to know my goals. And if they could share it, right? When they're in rooms, and things come up around housing, or they come up about the Latino community, if they could help us champion what we're doing, then that already is success to me, and it's helping our area.
Great. Thank you so very much, Councilwoman Santana. It was such a gift to have you with us this afternoon. We are grateful for all that you're doing, not just for your ward, but on City Council and for the City of Cleveland as a whole. Thank you for everything.
Thank you, Marianne, and thank you for the opportunity to be part of Leadership Cleveland. I'm just really excited about this journey and what to come for next year.